What is good, guys? It is Reed and welcome back to a very special video. Today we got Mentalism 101 episode 2, one that I'm really excited for. If you don't know what this series is, it is a new series on my channel. We're only on episode 2, and this is going to be for people who are aspiring to start performing mentalism. Mentalism is a genre that doesn't get a ton of love on YouTube, but one that I love and one that is a little bit more tricky to start learning. And so I'm trying to outline a sort of process that you can follow by watching these videos and hopefully get yourself into a place where you're comfortable performing. This is slightly tailored towards playing card magicians who want to start to perform mentalism, but anyone who really wants to get into it will benefit a lot from these videos. Now, I know you guys want me to just start diving into effects and methods and that sort of thing, but we can't jump the gun here. And then the first couple of these videos are probably going to be a lot more theoretical. So this one's no exception. This one is going to be on something interesting and something that I really recommend you sit down and take some time to think about before diving too deep into this journey. And that is your character slash the direction you want to go with your mentalism. Now, this is something very important, and I'll get into why it's important and what exactly I mean by this as we get more into the video. But this is a very important video. If you haven't seen episode 1, where I cover where to get started and some of the mindset changes you need to make before you start to get into the mentalism side, you should go check out that video. I'll link it right there. And without further ado, let's just jump into episode 2 of Mentalism 101. So what do I mean by choosing your character and your direction? So basically, I mean, who do you want to be? Who do you want the audience to perceive when you perform? And there's a ton of different types of characters, and I'll get into those in a second, but there's a lot of these questions, right? Do I want to be someone who's fun? Do I want to be someone who's serious? Do I want to be real feeling? Do I want to be emotion evicting, right? What do I want to get out of my audience, and how do I want them to perceive me? So those are kind of two questions. So sit down and think to yourself, you know, who do I want to be? Who do I want the audience to see when they watch me perform? And then what kind of emotions do I want them to feel? How do I want them to feel if I was someone, you know, watching me perform? Also, style is super important and really falls into this. So are you going to be more like a Max Maven style, or, you know, kind of serious, dressed in all black? Or are you going to be more like Pete Turner, who's more, you know, just everyday guy, sort of all the tattoos and more like a street style dress, you know, like more casual? So you have to decide, right? An appearance plays a big role in this. Now you might be asking yourself, you know, I'm a card magician and I don't think about any of these things and I still perform and it's fine. And it doesn't matter in that context. And you're right, it doesn't matter nearly as much, especially if you're not performing professionally, right? In mentalism, it does matter more because it's very much linked to the effect, I think, as I'll explain in a second here. How you come across is very much linked to the effect, how your effect is perceived, and that sort of thing. Finally, it's about your persona, like how you behave and how you act and what you say and how you say it. And I think all these things should be tied in a character that fits you. And by character, you don't have to be much different than how you already are. You don't have to be different at all. I'm not really any different than I normally am. But there are decisions you need to consciously think about and make. So let's get into some of those now. So now, why is this stuff sort of important, right? Like I said, if you come from the card world, you might not think some of this stuff is important, but why is it important? Well, first of all, it helps you decide the type of material you're going to perform, okay? Whether you're going to perform stuff that's more fun, stuff that has a more serious undertone, trying to evict some emotional responses, stuff that is really impactful inside, you know, when someone, they feel it in their heart, something that is more comes across as more of a problem for someone to figure out, kind of, or something that's just super shocking. I think mentalism can be closely tied into some of the I want to say David Blaine-esque weird things that he does, like ice pick through hand. Like, obviously that's not mentalism, but you can get a similar style of effect where it's like just really shocking, right? Stuff like that. So you got to kind of pick your avenue. And then how you perform too, like I kind of said, what are the things that while I'm performing, what am I going to say to evict what I want? What am I going to do, right, as I perform? And then all of that will, you know, trickle down into how your magic is ultimately felt. And the overarching theme here, and something that I think is really interesting, and some people may not agree with this, but you know, you hear in card magic all the time, there's like 7 or 9, I forget the number, different types of effects. There's transposition, vanish, penetration, whatever. And there's a list, and every effect can be summarized roughly by one of these. And mentalism's interesting because I may argue there's really only one type of effect, and it's some kind of thought reveal or information reveal. It's a reveal of some sort, right? Now, there's so many different ways to do this, but thinking about all the different type of mentalism that I do, every effect that I have, as different as they all feel, as shocking as they all are, as amazing as they all are in different ways, at the end of the day, it's always me revealing something, right? Whether that's the tattoo reveal that I do, whether it's the reveal on the playing card that I have here, whether it's a thought reveal, whether it's a drawing duplication. It's all these things that are reveals. And at the end of the day, I'd almost argue there's really one type of effect in mentalism, right? Yeah, there's a drawing duplication, there's a divination, there's a prediction, but at the end of the day, you're revealing whether it was a thought in the future, a thought in the past. At the end of the day, they all kind of lump into that reveal category, right? Maybe when you start to get into something like PK touches, you start to get the sort of something different, but to me, that as much as I do call that mentalism because it fits my character in that same breath, I'd probably categorize that a bit more as mental magic, right? So it's really tough, and a lot of people in mentalism, they say, be careful that not everything you do is just reveal, but it's like finding different ways and new ways to reveal ultimately make the effects feel different, and your spectator doesn't really feel like they're the same anyway. But from a really fundamental theoretical perspective, that's really what it comes down to. So with all that said, if you're in this mindset, if you agree with me, or you at least wrap your head around what I'm trying to say, with there being only one type of effect in mentalism, how you come across, how you deliver that effect, and how your audience experiences it completely shifts the context of the effect that you do, right? And that's why you can take different effects that are all reveals at the end of the day and make them feel so different by what you say, how you perform, the story, the presentation, and all these sort of things. So it's really important you nail down what you want to do so that you can present these type of reveal effects in different ways to different people and get those different effects and they come across the way that you want them to. So how do you do this? So this is sort of where you can sit down, maybe take out a pen and paper, or just really reflect on some of these questions that I'm going to pose to you to sort of nail down what you want to do. And then as we move forward through these series and any other mentalism that you learn, you can adapt the effects to fit what you want. So the first thing I want you to think about, that's a really important question, and I will give you my thoughts. I don't want to influence you too much or be too, give you too much of my bias, but you make the decision for yourself. The first thing is, do I want this to feel real or like a trick? Now, to a lot of you, it's going to be no question that you're going to lean towards the real aspect. And for me, that's the same thing. Now, morally, some people might feel different and say, there's no way that I want to make people feel real. Now, well, I understand that, and that is a take that I tend to agree with. I never tell people that magic is real. It is a little bit different in this context. I'll explain why. So with the real side, essentially all that means is self-explanatory, but do you want what you're doing to feel real to people? Now, I don't advocate, and this is where the morals come in, I don't necessarily advocate that you tell people outright, I can read your mind, this is real, right? But leaving it in an ambiguous zone, which I've touched on in episode 1, is where I think that sweet spot is, right? When people ask, how did you do that? What did you do? Can you really read my mind, right? So if they say, can you really read my mind? I always say no, but I use various techniques like, body reading, psychology, and I pick up on little things to build a picture of what you may be thinking of and give my best guess, right? And that also is nice because it covers you for misses if you ever make mistakes, right? It's not a perfect science. And we're going to have a whole video all about missing in mentalism and how to correct that and deal with that. So, don't worry about that too much, but it's just a thought. If people ask how you did it, I always have these things like psychology and body reading and influence and stuff like that you can use, which are things that are somewhat based in reality. Psychology is very real, very much based in reality. Body reading definitely has some basis in reality too. You can look at people people and see how they react. And there's full profilers that use body reading to profile people. So things like this are real, and maybe that's not the method you're using, but it keeps it in that ambiguous zone, and it doesn't straight up lie to people, right, about the mind reading thing, which is where I think that moral issue falls, which is why I think everyone should sit sort of in that ambiguous zone. Whereas even with my card magic, I don't really have a problem telling people that it's sleight of hand, it's practice, it's whatever it happens to be, if they happen to ask, because most people understand that's what it is, right? And at the end of the day, doing something that is extremely incredible, most people understand that with a deck of cards there is something going on there, and 90% of people don't believe it's real. If I do have someone who does believe it's real, again, I won't lie to them, but I might try to keep them in that zone of ambiguity so that they can continue to enjoy the magic and experience it. But I definitely would never suggest lying. So this is what you need to decide. Now, you can go full this is a trick sort of route, and a lot of people do that and have great results with that. And it's simply maybe giving a disclaimer before you start performing of everything I do here is simply an illusion of mind reading, right? And you can still get very powerful results with this. And at the end of the day, it depends on your performance style, what you want to do. I told you what I like, and I told you sort of the moral, if you have any moral problems with the sort of telling people it's real, I completely understand, but I think you can fit into that ambiguous zone. And I personally think it's very important with mentalism to keep it ambiguous, just because we have that luxury right now, right? In this modern day, still people, a large majority of people believe in the things that some kind of mentalism possibility, because it's so closely related to psychics and stuff, which people already think are real. And so we can use that to our advantage, not saying to lie, but keep it in that ambiguous zone and keeping people feeling. It just brings a better sense of magic and will get you better reactions. The second, with mentalism, to me, when you say it's a trick, it does really hinder the effect, whereas a card trick, it doesn't really have the same hindrance on the effect overall. So that's my thoughts, but you make up your decision on that question. The next thing you can ask yourself is, do you want your performances to evict a sense of emotion, or more of an impressive, sort of shocking result? Like, do you want your spectator going, or do you want them kind of like, wow, that was amazing, that touched me, that spoke to me, that's super incredible, like, I don't know how you did that, like, that's just, you can have the, oh my god, hold me back. There's two performance styles, and I tend to feather on a bit of both depending on the effect, but again, you can take the same effect and have both of those reactions depending on how you perform it. So it is important to kind of think what you want to do. Now, I have a few effects that the whole purpose is just to build a connection, build a rapport, and try to evict some level of emotion from people. And then I have a bunch of effects that are just like total, just one hit punch shock, like that is incredible. Now, for example, like with a reveal of a name, for example, just having someone think of a name and revealing that, getting that hard punch, hits them really hard. Oh my god, he just got into my head, how did he do that? Incredible. Or on the other hand, you could build it up and have them think of someone that's important to them, or someone that is past that means something important. Start with building up that sense of emotion. They'll think of someone, and then before you reveal the piece, you give further insight into that person. You build a conversation, try to end on a positive note, and then hit with the reveal at the end, and that's sort of the cherry on top, and you get that really nice emotional piece. So that's another thing you need to ask yourself, what kind of style you want to go into, because it'll tailor you towards the type of effects you do and how you present certain effects. So my next tip is, if you're sort of struggling to make these decisions, would be where to look. Well, if you look at other mentalists and see how they perform, see the type of reactions they get, that'll give you a good idea. Like I kind of mentioned, you can look at someone like Max Maven, who's very serious and dressed up and that sort of thing, and gives a very sort of eerie feeling to his performances. Or someone like Peter Turner, who's dressed up very casually, tattoos when you see him perform most of the time, and he's getting a lot of shocking reactions, but he can also evict really emotional reactions as well. So he's got a great balance. So for me, someone like Pete is a great inspiration for me, and I do emulate a lot of things after him because I love the feel of his performances, the reaction he gets, and that sort of thing. So you look at a bunch of different mentalists, see the feeling you get when you watch, the feeling the spectators get, the reactions, the whole persona, and you can kind of answer some of those questions if you're struggling on what you might like to come across as, right? Now, finally, you can look at methods a little bit, and those will sort of point you in the direction of what your character is and how you want to perform. Now, some methods are really tailored to being extremely clean so that it doesn't feel like they were involved, there were no props, and that it's very organic and real. And if that's the way you want to be perceived, you might need to focus on those methods. They might not be as practical, they might be more difficult, but then they give you that cleanliness to make it feel more real. So again, depends on what you want to do. So that's why having these questions answered can even help you on the method side of things, or sometimes the method can direct you in the opposite way depending what you want to go. Now, I do want to try to give you something concrete also to work on and see if you can't decide what you want to do. So here's what that is. It's going to be a really simple, really easy effect, but you're just going to try different things, and we're going to build on this effect in future videos. So this is going to be the simple handling, and then we're going to take it up. So what you're going to do, first you're going to have the deck of cards set aside, not really feeling like it's in play, but within arm's reach as sort of an afterthought. You can do this with a stack of billets as well, but I'm just going to assume that we all have a deck of cards and a Sharpie for this. That's all you're going to need. So you're going to have the Sharpie and the deck of cards sort of set aside, and you're going to be talking to this person. And you're going to say, I just want you to think of a name, someone that's important to you, someone that I could never know. So now they'll think of a name, and this feels completely separate from the cards. So the purpose of this experiment, now normally if we're wanting to evict an emotion, we would really build up this moment so that they have an emotional attachment to the person they're picking. But for the purpose of this sort of experiment, when you're doing this, I would suggest to start, just ask them to think of a name of someone important to them that you could never know. Just keep it simple. And then when you do the reveal, you can try different methods of reveal with the exact same build-up and see what you like better, right? So they have that person in mind. Let's say they go for the name John. We'll keep it simple. Now you say, all right, I want you to commit this to memory, but I'd also want to leave you with a souvenir after you leave this, after you're done with this performance. So let's do this. And then you look around and you say, let's do this, I got an idea. And you pick up the deck, right? This is very nonchalant feeling. And you say, just take out a card. Don't let me see which one it is. So they take out any card, 5 of hearts in this case. And you say, here, just write the name of the person on this, so later when you tell your friends this story, you can remember and retell the events exactly, and so you'll have a bit of a souvenir, right? So you just say, write it nice and clear anywhere on the face of the card so that it's legible for you for later, right? So how that would kind of play off at a normal sort of performance. So I'd say, so you got that person in mind, all right, keep that in mind. I'd like to leave people with souvenirs generally, something, they can remember this experience and accurately retell it to their friends later or something. So, I got it. Here we'll do this. Just take out a card. Don't let me see it. This one here, perfect. Actually, you know what? Just write the name, whatever name you have, whatever person you went with, just write that on the white space, somewhere on the card, and then you can, fully remember all the details of this experience for later. So now they'll take this and they will write the name on the card. They close up the pen, and now what you're going to do is you're going to say, all right, don't let me see it. You're going to turn away and you're going to say, just drop that on top. And now we're going to do a series of, a very simple false shuffle. So this is all going to happen with your head turned. You're just going to peel off that top card, shuffle off on top, so it's now on the bottom. And then you're going to pinch and milk the top and bottom card, right? So it stays on the bottom, and you can do that a couple of times so that it stays on the bottom. Keep in mind, your head's going to be turned, so you don't want to flash this, so just be turned slightly this way. So how that's going to look at speed is you just say, all right, leave it on top, I don't want to see it, and we'll just lose it in the middle, and we'll come back to that in a second, all right? Now, once you've done that to get your peak, you're just going to say, all right, now your card could be anywhere in here, and you just pick up the deck, you pinch it like this, and the card's on the bottom, and you pinch it like this, and you get a glimpse of that name nice and clear on the bottom. Now, whatever way it's orientated, it's going to be easy to see, because if it was written at the top here, when you're holding it like this, your head's already kind of faced that way. This way is going to be easy to see. Upside down is the only one that's going to be a little bit tricky, but it's really not that hard to read upside down. And if you needed to, you can take an extra second to peek it, even pass it to the other hand and rotate it. So what that looks like, right, if you're holding it like this, and then you pass it to the other hand for a second, it pivots the name, right? So like this to this, you know, don't say we're gonna mix it in the middle so there's no way I can see it, because then that puts in their mind that you could have seen it. So you say, well, all right, we'll mix that up in there. Now that card is lost somewhere in this deck, right? And that's all you do. And then I usually like to cut that card into the middle. So I'll just do a swing cut, and then I'll have them hold on to the deck. I'll say, here, you just hold on to that, just, you know, squeeze tight and imagine that person as you hold that deck, right? So you can see we're doing something very simple, something we already know, a little false shuffle and a little retention shuffle, and then we're just, you know, literally looking at the card, getting the information. And we've used all playing card moves, but the context of the effect is so different, and now we're revealing this. And this can be done with anything, but do it with a name for now, and I'll show you why when we get to the reveal aspect here. So again, just to reiterate what that would look like at speed, they put their card on, you say, all right, we'll mix that card into the middle so that we don't know where that is. And yeah, now that card's somewhere in this deck, you know, it doesn't matter where it is, but we'll get back to that in a sec. For now, I just want you to hold on to this deck, squeeze it, and think of that person that you have in mind, right? So you hand them this, and now you've cut it in the middle, so you're clean and you know the name. So now you're very far ahead, and you know, we're not going to reveal the card here because this isn't a card trick. These are just pieces of paper that we happen to use for a souvenir. Again, you can do this with a stack of billets, but if you don't have it, you do it with a deck of cards as well. There are many other ways to get a peek, but again, we're keeping this very simple, and it'll work. So the big purpose of this experiment is for the reveal. So I want you to do this trick several times and try revealing it in different ways. The first way is you're going to look at the person, you're going to say, focus on that name. All right, focus on the first letter for me, now the second letter. And then you're going to say, okay, keep thinking about it, keep thinking about it. I'm getting like an N or an O, like an N or it's an O, isn't it? So what I want you to do is do something, some kind of letter reveal. Okay, so it can be anything you want. You can do the last letter, the first letter. I usually skip the first, go to the second letter, because if you nail the first right away, it's kind of obvious that you're on the right track, right? Also, on a side note, we are going to have another video all about how to reveal pieces of information, so stay tuned for that as well. So you jump to the second letter, and I always do a sort of miscall, so I'll always name the letter before it and then that letter. So it'll be like, it's like a N, so our case is John, right? So it's like an N or an O maybe. It's an O, isn't it? And then you say that, you get your first hit, and then I would go for the gender of the person. So you say, think of this person, this is a male, isn't it? And if you can't tell the gender from the name, if it's a unisex name, then don't bother with this, right? You're just kind of playing. So do two little hits, maybe a letter, maybe two letters if it's a long name. You can say, maybe focus on the ending if it's a common ending of a name. If it has like a double letter in it, like two P's next to each other, you could say, you know, I'm thinking there's like a double letter in this. Do something like that. And then finally, you know, you come back and you say, just keep saying that name, keep repeating it for me. Okay, I think I got it. Do you go forward, John? And then you get your hit. So that's sort of the quick hit. You take a few little hits and then you just hit hard with the name, and that's sort of the shock, boom, I'm just gonna hit you with the info, right? So do that a couple times, reveal it that way, and then reveal it in a different way. And that other way would be, you know, evict sort of some emotion. So what you might say is very general lines that are gonna apply to anyone, right? That they could be thinking of. So you just say, think of this person. I want you to imagine the first time you met this person, right? The first time you can remember meeting them. So if you were very young, think of the first time you remember meeting them. Think of the emotion this person gave you. Think about how this person makes you feel now every time you see them. When you see them in the past, how you're feeling about seeing them in the future. Just think about these different aspects for me. And obviously pause between these sentences. Let them take some time to feel an emotion. You know, say, think of an emotion, the strongest emotion that you feel with this person. Is it a happy emotion? Is it a sad emotion? And you build up this sense of feeling. Now, one thing that's nice is at the beginning we said pick someone important to them. So obviously this is going to be someone that they have some sort of love for. For a little hit, just after you say the line of, you know, think about what kind of emotion this person gives you, whether it's happy emotion or sad emotion, if it's joy, if it's anger, right? Just after you say that line, you wait a second, you say, think of that emotion, and you say, you know, I'm feeling a sort of a positive emotion here, something very loving. I feel like this is a strong bond you have with this person. And that's going to be anyone who's important to them, right? So you can get a nice little hit there, build some of that emotion, and then after you've said, you know, had them think about these emotions, hit that, you know, very easy hit line that'll hit every time, and then you can grab their hands or touch their shoulder, of course with permission, hopefully, or, you know, gauge it, guys. Don't be, you know, crazy here, but you can grab their hand and give and deliver that sort of line that I have a sense this is someone very important to you, very close to you. You have a very strong love for. What's coming through to me is a name. I'm getting, is this person's name John? And you end with that, right? So just a complete context shift, and we're trying to evoke that emotional response now. So you're going to go through, give some of these emotional feelings, cues, and then you're going to hit that sort of Barnum statement, that sort of line that hits sort of any scenario. A Barnum statement, just if you don't know, is a very general statement on that sort of applies to everyone, like what you see in horoscopes and stuff. So you hit that, and then you reveal the name, and you see if you get that more emotional response. So try both of those, see which one you like better, and enjoy. So that is it for me, episode 2, Mentalism 101, about building your character. So I hope you guys got some value out of this. I think there's a lot of important points in here, a lot of things to touch on, and that effect at the end is very nice, very simple. You can use it to reveal anything you want. Don't overlook it. A lot of people, Pete Turner, use that peak all the time, and it's very simple, and it's just about shifting the context, getting the mind away from it having anything to do with the peak. That's why you don't say, I'm going to shuffle it so there's no way I could see it. You focus on more the revealing and the story behind it, and don't even focus on the card. It's just about the name and that sort of thing. So test that out, but really reflect more importantly on the points I've shared, what you want, and what kind of performer you want to be, so that in the future of this series and these videos you can have a good sense of where you want to go. So if you need any help on this sort of thing, send me an email, rf.sleights@gmail.com, and we can set up a private lesson going over mentalism, card stuff, whatever you'd like. I just want to thank the new subscribers for joining. Welcome to the channel. Hope you like this type of content. And with all that said, don't forget to like, comment, share, subscribe, and I will catch you in the next video.